Another year of Storm basketball. We'll see who subtweets us this year. Uh, I
Started with
love
a
this
bang,
shit.
are we? Started with a
I
bang.
love this shit. You know I do. Come on. Welcome back to the Storm Roundtable. It is wonderful to be back with you, Christian Braswell, Rowan Schaberg. I am glad that I'm actually saying the last names correct this time because for so long I said it like Schaberg. I'm stupid. Charles
Remember
Hamaker,
that.
of course. Um, It is wonderful to be back with you. Training camp started today, April 27th. Um, there's obviously been so much over the offseason, as you know, as this group of three knows. The draft has come and gone. It was an exciting draft, one that, we talked about in one of our last episodes about, this Dominique Malonga pick potentially being a thing, and it came to be. So that's it. We're in the training camp fully. We'll have media day tomorrow. The plan is for us to do a sort of, what we heard, what we learned from camp tomorrow. Things can change, things can happen, or maybe media day is just not that interesting. I don't think the latter is going to be the case. But yeah, that and we'll look a little bit at the roster. We'll have plenty to talk about in the next few days. I promise you that because camp's going to be underway. But let's look at this draft class. Because we're working on a little bit of a crunch. I want to go through these picks, right? Because Seattle had four picks in total. One that as soon as because we knew it was going to happen before Olivia Austin officially hit that portal. Okay. But then even after
Miles?
that, Olivia Miles, sorry, Olivia Austin, different player, sorry. Olivia Miles hit that portal. Um, and then when it officially happened, I mean, everybody and their mama like knew that was you could there were folks who put there were some folks who put Sonia Citron in there and they can, they had hope for that, but that wasn't reality. Um, Christian, my guy, it is so wonderful to see and hear you again. Um, I know we talked about it a little bit last time when we were talking about this, but Dominique Malonga hit me like I can watch all the highlights, but I've brought you guys in to talk basketball. Let's hear this on Malonga. Rowan will get with you, and then after that, we'll go over to the crop of three that they got in that third round.
So essentially, I always believe that the Storm's draft focus with the number two pick after acquiring the Drew Lloyd trade was going to go towards, the wing, or was going to go towards the front court. I mean, always felt that, especially after the Jordan Horson injury. It just felt like, that's where the need was. And considering the way that front offices have been talking about the 26 free agency class, it always made it feel like they were going, to try to replace her production in that field rather than drafting. It's essentially a team that needs um, production immediately, especially one that with the age group this team has that wants to compete for a championship. I don't really think that that was really in play, especially considering the way teams are already approaching this draft class in general. With players deciding possibilities of not going to the draft and staying in college, which you see that happen with a couple of players. Um, but other than that, Dominique Malonga, everything that you've heard about her is verified fact. She's one of the most talented recruits that we've seen in quite a while coming to the league. At 19, she's already so polished at 6'6". There's pretty much anything she can do on the ball or off of it. Like we've seen all the highlights or defensive highlights, but also things that may not, may get as much attention, but her creativity as a passer, kind of the way that she helps, kind of on the help side. Yeah, it's easy from being 6'6", having a 7 foot wingspan doing that. But like it's her fluidity doing so. It's really magnificent to watch. And I can't wait to see how she blends with this team. Um, you know, you coming into a team with Nneka Ogwumike, first Battle Hall of Famer, certified, Essie McMagor, who's on her way. Um, you know, that's gonna be that's gonna be a team, man. Jordan Horston, Nika Mule when she gets back. That core right there, those four players, that's gonna that's gonna be a team. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything on the Dominique Malonga side. I think all of us, like all three of us, were kind of laughing when people were talking about Citron possibly being the number 2 pick, just because, nothing against her talent level, but just again, knowing what the Storm looks for in someone. And I think that that's something that all three of us know pretty well of who the Storm likes to kind of go for. And we, saw that in free agency too. And just Dominique Malonga fits what they love just to a T. She's international. She's, young, developable. We like see her with Ezzy Magbagor. We have the connection, the French connection with Gabby. Like it just makes so much sense. And so we were I think the three of us were laughing kind of like there's no one more perfect than Dominique Malonga. And it just makes so much sense. So I was not surprised to hear that. But I think the other three, Serena Sandell, Madison Connor, Jordan Hobbs, to me, they're a bit, and I guess you could kind of throw Mackenzie Holmes in there a little bit because she is, rookie years wise. She's really coming into it with just about as much experience as the other three. But all of them are really interesting to me because I think that any one of them on any given day, like they could surprise me. I feel like, Chuck and I, we saw Jordan Hobbs and Michigan kind of destroy UW. That's the only reason that I honestly knew of her name at all. She was just a pain in UW women's basketball's butt in the Big Ten tournament. So she is someone that I don't think that a lot of Storm fans will be familiar with, and I don't think really many WNBA people will be super familiar with either. But I think that her, Madison Connor, and Serena Sandell can all be very if they have a good training camp, I think they could make a spot. And if they don't have a good training camp, they couldn't. Like I wouldn't count Jordan Hobbs or Madison Connor or Serena Sandell out necessarily, just given that they're low draft picks. I think that Jordan Hobbs, she had a 28-point game in the first round against Iowa State, or in the first four against Iowa State. So she can produce, offensively. We know Madison Connor can, and we know Serena Sandell can as well. I saw her play in Spokane as Serena Sandell. I saw her play in Spokane, and, she was definitely on a lot of people's kind of watch list going into the draft. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting class just outside of Malonga, who I think we can all say is pretty definitely going to be making the roster and has that spot locked in. I think the other three are a bit of a toss up, as most, second, third round rookies are. But I don't, in past years, there's kind of been one or two that you're like, okay, I know you're not going to make it kind of thing. And I think that any of them could kind of make a case for themselves. So I'm really excited to see that. And same with Mackenzie Holmes. I think that she, we'll see. We haven't seen her play in a while, so I'm really interested to see what she looks like out there. Yeah, I'm excited for Jordan Hobbs and Madison Connor and Serena Sandell.
No, Chris, I'm gonna bump it to you because yeah, Rowan picked it up perfectly, with that group of three. Um, and Lord knows I'm excited for one of those drafted three. Like Mackenzie Holmes, I'll talk about, but yeah, I want you on that as well because you know, on top of the Storm stuff, and I know you've got another dub venture that when we end here, I'd love for you to put out there. But you're in the college hoops too, so you're not just at the pro level, so you're talking about as well. So yeah, go on that, and then I'll get into my thoughts on that group.
Listen, there are a lot of people that have been doing it a lot longer than I have. I can say that. That's for sure. But yeah, the Storm were one of the worst three-point shooting teams last year as far as makes and takes last year. There's really no hiding from it. They were last in both pretty much through the majority of the season. You bring in Madison Connor, shooting 44.9% on threes. I mean, she's one of the best three-point shooters outside of Aaliyah Nye in Vegas. But she led multiple seasons as far as three-point shooting in her respective conference. Then you bring in Jordan Hobbs, like Rowan was saying. Um, didn't play a lot really the first 2 years, Michigan, but then kind of played that veteran role like Silas Swords and Mia Holloway and really a lot of those young players at Michigan. That's going to be a really good team in the Big Ten for years to come. Especially with the way the W is and the way they're staying in college a lot longer now. Like Michigan can really build something with that team. I'm not going to say they shocked people and the turning run, to be honest. I mean, I felt like they could always do something with that, but Jordan Hobbs and the way that kind of leadership worked, you can see it worked well. I think that's one skill that we talk about prospects all the time and what they do at the W, but we don't really talk about how their game translates, kind of beyond the box score, or even just leadership and things of that nature. I think that's one thing. Whether she makes a Storm roster or not, that will be kind of like a skill in her toolbox to go on. You know, Charles was talking about it before we started recording, but Serena Sundell is one of his favorites coming into camp. You know, you just can't teach solid size at the one spot, man. You can't. She's not going to be a volume scorer, but then again, do you need her to be that for this team right now? I don't think so. She can't. I'm not saying she can't be, but right now, as far as the role they're probably going to carve out for her, I don't think that's one that they need her to be. But one of the best passers in the nation. Simple. At 6'1", 6'2", she could back down anyone really back in the paint. It's a matchup nightmare if you really want to get into it. Really within like 18 feet. But yeah, her finish around the rim, great, impeccable. I think one thing that it's ultimate foot speed or defense and staying up. Some of the fastest players in college have issues, kind of adjusting to the speed of the W. And I think that may happen her game a little bit, but then again, like we've seen some of the other rookies getting past that, within 10, 15 games. So yeah, I think the Storm have a really good draft class. One that honestly is a lot better than a lot of people probably projected. And again, like the whole Dominique Malonga thing going all the way down, you take the best talent available. Like I don't know if you guys remember, but Rachel Galligan, she does a lot of W stuff for BR and Winsider. She was pissed that Serena Snell fell to the third round. Like a lot of people were, but I've never seen her that angry online. And I was just I get it. Third round, one of the best point guards in the country, one of the best point guards in the draft, overall skill level, everything. The third round, yeah, the Storm got them a good one, man. With that one.
That is a great point because I remember, I was sitting like this, I had the draft over here, and I was like, Sundell is available? Like, how did we, I miss things. My glasses, right? I can't see that well. I was very confused. But yeah, I mean, you know, Madison Connor, like Christian said before we started, like well, even as you said, in a different way, but in the same issue, just a little bit ago about shooting. Like this team, 3-point shooting, some at times generally shooting struggled, right? And so you'll need some of that. But Serena Sundell, I mean, you just look at player, and as you mentioned, the size of the guard, the court vision. I mean, again, not necessarily volume. You don't need her to be, as you said. There's just a lot to like, and with it's kind of interesting. I had to look at the ESPN's like tracker of all the picks just because I wanted to make sure I see everything right and see their overall. It's funny to see overall rank 15 and Sundell's here in the third round. It just is remarkable. I don't know what Golden State was doing. That's a whole other thing we could talk about. But it's funny to see them say that the Sundell could challenge Nika Mule to be Skylar Diggins' primary backup. I'm like, do they know? But also, like, I
Wait, hold
just
on. Are you serious?
yeah, it says it's in the ESPN. Sir Charlie of Cream, who I hated for his ESPN bracketology because I wanted UW to be higher. Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I
real.
mean, unless Serena, wants to leave the WNBA and go compete overseas with Nika in July. I mean, that's the only way that's already going to happen. But hey.
Um, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that shouldn't be hard to, compete with a player who's suspended their contract. There's just so much for me to like. As you mentioned, the playmaking, just like hate to use these, but it's like just nice all around, like plays the game the right way kind of talk, right? Like, you could use that. Yeah, Madison Connor, I mean, not to put her in a box, but it's shooting, right? I mean, I feel like we talk about Madison Connor. We're not, I know, Rowan, you did it was Sundell you had seen more of her career,
Yeah.
not Connor.
Yes, but I
Right.
will say one thing I did want to say in my little spiel about that was I think it's also interesting. I wish I could find who posted this, but someone very very helpfully posted a depth chart of basically every team in the league just to give a better thing. And I have that pulled up right now, so it's very helpful. But I do think it's interesting to kind of look at that laid out. And that's part of the reason why I think I'm saying that Madison Connor and Jordan Hobbs both have a very good chance of making the roster, because you see in this little, depth chart that basically, behind Skylar Diggins, there is now one, two, three, four options of people at the point guard spot. And personally, from what we've heard from Talisa and Noel, it feels like they're feeling pretty crazy about Lexi Brown, Zaya Cook, and Erica Wheeler. And to me, it's interesting because then you look at who's behind Alicia Clark, kind of in that shooting guard, like in that kind of two spot. And it looks like Madison Connor and Jordan Hobbs are kind of the two that are there. And so I think when you have, when you maybe need a backup at that position and you have two rookie options where instead maybe you're Sundell competing with, some people that have had a little bit more experience in the league, does that mean that they should get that spot over her? That's another story. I think if we're talking about 3-point shooting with Madison Connor, I know that the three of us were kind of surprised in the press conference that, Noel and Talisa did a while ago when they were kind of talking about Lexi Brown, Zaya Cook, and Erica Wheeler kind of being the 3-point shooters that they have been needing. And again, no offense to them, we haven't seen that as much throughout their careers. We've seen glimpses in all three of them. But I think that obviously there is something to be said about, can your 3-point shooting, transfer from college to pros? But
Mm.
Madison Connor, the way that she has been shooting, you're right, Christian, is honestly like one of their kind of best looks at a consistent 3-point shooter right now. So I think that that's kind of where I'm coming from when I think Sundell is really, really, like a really great all around player. And I do think she deserves a spot, but it's also kind of important to think about who, you know, how many backups people need, who the
Mm.
coaches are already really interested in. You already, I believe, have Lexi Brown under contract, yes, and I can't remember the yes. So it's something like that where, and again, Erica Wheeler, they love the veteran presence. So I have a very hard time believing that they would waive her. But again, we don't know. And I don't know. It's just all those things to think about of just depth in general. Are you going to go for for four backup point guards with no backup twos? Like, it's all kind of interesting to look at. But I think Madison Connor is their best look at a 3-point shooter right now.
I think
Yeah.
Madison Connors also helps out the fact that she can play the one or the two, and Jordan Hobbs can do that too. You know, Lexi Brown can, but I think there's a world where some of these acquisitions that they may have actually had to jump hoops to get may not actually make it because of this draft class and how talented they are. And like, think about it, it's training camp. This is dog eat, dog eat, really. You get what you get. There's a world where some players outplay others, and we didn't think it happen. At that point, like Rowan was saying, I get name recognition, status in the league, years in the league. But if you got a rookie coming in the league, outshowing you up in training camp, I mean, you have to give that rookie the shot. They earned it.
Right. I mean, sometimes it's that interesting thing where you'd think that, but I feel like there's sometimes, again, no offense to anyone, but we've seen in the past some years with, with the Storm and with other teams as well, where you're just kind of, where that veteran presence is valued a little bit more. And sometimes I don't think that that's the best way to go playing wise. And I feel like that's something that we've seen with the Storm before, where sometimes it's that the veteran presence that ends up kind of outweighing the play on the court a little bit. So I'm interested to see how it shakes out. I think either way, yeah, I'm just interested to see how it shakes out. We never know what they're gonna do. You really
No, not lately with this team. And I mean, I think what excites me the most, and we've done this before, I've talked about this before, but what's exciting to me is like with the Storm, this team hasn't really, like, outside of a player here and there. Obviously Jordan's an example, Nika last year, but obviously she didn't play much. Like, I guess if we'll tweak it, right? Like players that actually made an impact, and that's not a slight to Nika, it's a fact, right? Rookies that made an impact, that list for the Storm for the last, you can help me on this, Rowan, or either of you, if you know it, like five, six, it's like outside of Jordan Horston, okay? Like you have to go back a bit because they have, they've prioritized the veterans. You go back to Sue Bird's time. They're trying to keep, some of those like her last few years. You're a rookie. Hey, sorry, man. Like show out in camp. We'll tell people that what we saw. You're not making this team.
I mean,
Like,
I can only really think right now of Jordan Canada, and that was,
Yeah.
and
you
when
see what I'm
I feel
saying,
like
though?
she was the last standout rookie to me.
I mean, I hate to be play devil's advocate, but like when you're winning so many games, I
This is
mean,
true.
you're
This
not
is
really
also
picking
true.
out the best of the crop of talent left. You're not finishing with a top four seed, every year like some teams in the league.
Yeah. No, that is absolutely true as well. So that factors into it. It's funny though to see how the Storm franchise has gone is where you get the top picks in a Bird and a Lauren Jackson, Stewie, Jewel. Like you've built your team with these like picks you get from being sucked. And then, because of you have that, you build these franchises, and then you don't really build through the draft that much. Yeah, that's a great point. So I think that's just why I'm so excited about this draft because like this crop of four, and then you throw Kenzie Holmes in because her knee or last year at Indiana, um, is really exciting to me. And it sucks that like I know, and I was telling raise your hand. I know I said this to Rowan a few days ago, Christian, and maybe I'm sure you have thoughts on it as well. Um, but like the NWSL is filing to have like a league below it as like a feeder league so that their talent can go. Like if the W had their version, like maybe you love what Jordan Hobbs does in training camp, but you send her down there. Like
Send them to
it's
Tacoma.
you
We should
get it
it's
right.
kind of like the Kiana Williams like team,
Oh,
right?
Kiana
Like
Williams,
she for how many years? 3? Was it 3 years? Was
three,
Yeah, I
two
mean,
for sure.
she was in the class of 2021, I believe, wasn't she? I'd have to,
I
yeah,
think so because I remember interviewing her around that
yeah, but
time,
it
and
just
then she
feels
got
like
cut.
the Kiana Williams team of let's keep you around. You'll come back. You'll be really helpful when you come back. And
We're
then,
gonna call you,
yeah, exactly.
but
I don't
like,
think any team has done that better than the Dallas Wings with Odyssey Sims because she's from
mm,
Dallas. She lives in Irving, so like, yeah, oh, we need a point guard. Call up Odyssey. She's free this week. Like,
what are you doing? Yeah, goodness gracious. Just, Sundell, I mean, you just fall in love with the player and especially considering the value of the pick. Madison Connor, I mean, shoot the fucking lights out. Oh, there's your bad word of the show. Out of the gym, right? Jordan Hobbs, as much as I hate it for the dog inside of me, like, I mean, she showed out, right? And she's very coachable, which, if you know, and passion's one of Jordan Hobbs's things. So you play fucking hard. I'm just letting it flow at this point. Um, Play hard and you pick things up. I'm sure you'll find a spot. There are players in leagues that have done that, and they have had a long career. But Mackenzie Holmes is interesting to me because we go back to the shooting aspect of things, right? What did she do in college? Score the hell out of the basketball. Um, but, obviously coming off that injury, what does she look like? She spent a season at Indiana. Well, yes, at Indiana being a grad assistant. Rowan and I saw her. I like saw her down at because Indiana came here. I was like, hey, it's Mackenzie Holmes. I didn't say anything to her because, God forbid someone be weird. And we lost that game, I think. So I didn't feel great. I think no, maybe. I don't
Don't
remember.
remember that.
It's so long before we get back to that season, unfortunately, and that's more
Yeah.
hoops I want to talk about. Um, but just this class is going to be so fun. And I think that brings me to our wrap up point. We'll talk more. We will hopefully, God forbid something happens, talk more after media day tomorrow, and we can expand on this, right? Um, because at like this training camp should be so interesting. And I forgot they play a preseason game next week on this day. Like, and by then some players like I'm so excited, man. Um, so I guess we got a little bit, very tiny bit left. Um, is there something that I missed of this crop? Because I know all three of us, we could go on about this team for hours. That we want to hit, or you want to go with is that, or do we want to look at your sort of pick to click, I guess I'd say for camp? Because there are a lot of names here that aren't necessarily, written in stone. There's your group of Skylar, Gabby, NECA, Ezzy. Feel like AC is pretty ironclad. Um, and like Dom. And then I feel like from there, you're like there's not a lot of guarantee, right? So is there things we want to clean up, or would we rather go with that latter route that I just mentioned, do you think? We'll go with ladder. We'll go with pick to click because I want to
Sure.
I'm sure you guys have feelings on these players who we don't know for sure will make this roster, right? I know we all have feelings about them, especially the ones that were added in free agency because we talked about them, whether it was on the show or not. Um, since I started with Christian on my last question, we'll go to Rowan first. Christian, you'll wrap us up. And then we got media day tomorrow. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna run down the hill. I'm gonna be so excited. I'm gonna be out of breath. All right, I gotta shut up.
Oh, what am I talking about?
Just who you think, from the sort of list of players that's not guaranteed a spot,
I see.
like
I see.
is gonna prove
Who's gonna be?
themselves
Oh, okay.
who you
Okay.
think's gonna stand out here. I know we've talked about
It's
the
like we were
rookies,
talking
but
about
if
so many
it's one
different
of
things
them,
here.
I know I'm so excited. We're like it's 9:22 at night and I'm amped. I'm gonna go run down to the facility right now and see if they'll let me in.
Sleep outside the center, the Seattle Storm Center for basketball performance. I mean, I'm really excited to be at media day tomorrow, and also hopefully to get there a little bit early to see some practice as well. Because again, there are a lot of players that we don't really know much about. This looks like a very different team than it has in the past, especially with no Jewel Lloyd. Haven't seen that in 10 years, which is really which is crazy. So I'm just really excited to kind of see what everyone's looking like. Of course, Lexi Brown, we didn't see play very often, the past year. Mackenzie Holmes, I know how she played at Indiana. What does she look like now? Even Katie Lou Samuelson, we saw her play, but we're not, really sure how she's going to fit in to what the Storm kind of is doing because she really didn't, play very much here at all. So I don't know. I mean, again, I feel like I usually try and come at this, especially before I've seen them actually on the court, seeing kind of what, how Noe and her staff is kind of using each player. I feel like I'm coming at it from more of a just like culture, just kind of what I know about the organization kind of lens. And again, I mean, we know Erica Wheeler signed a training camp contract. She has not signed a long-term contract, so she definitely is not a shoe-in. But again, I feel like she just made a lot of sense, just given what the Storm looks for in free agency with again a veteran presence, veteran guard presence. It feels like so she's someone that it feels like kind of like what I was saying with Sundell, like it might be that thing where maybe the talent level isn't on the court isn't that, but I don't know, it just feels like it's something that the Storm really likes to prioritize. Whether that's a good thing or not when it translates to the court, we'll see. But I mean, I don't know. It's so hard looking at everyone. I just feel like everyone's kind of a big question mark for me right now, and I have to see them actually playing on the court. But I think that I would really, really love to see the Storm prioritize some the basketball side of it a little bit and a little bit less of the personality side of it, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I think that now with NECA and Skylar in their second years with the Storm, Gabby has been there for a long time. Ezzy's really kind of coming into a leadership position. Alicia Clark, who knows the Storm system so well, knows Noelle so well. I think that they are set on their leadership, and I think that they don't need to prioritize, oh, this person's been in the league a little bit longer, so they should get a roster spot. I think that they really should be looking objectively at talent level And I think that if they're looking at that, I think Serena Sundell, Madison Connor, they could get a spot. And I think that that should be the way that they go when maybe they haven't in the past. I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but we'll see.
Well, first off, I just want to start off by saying I know that everybody's freaking out with the fact that teams have the ability to sign, I think, 18 players to a training camp, to attend training camp or invites of that nature. Um, that's great, fine and dandy. Can I get roster expansion? You know, every time I talk to an athlete in this league, I always ask them that same question, and I always get the same answer. Yes, extra teams are great, more opportunities, new facilities, new faces to the league, more commitment, investment, whatever kind of filler word that you want to put in there. But also, we wouldn't be having half of these issues if teams could actually add players and not have to worry about injuries down the road to have to then sign five hardships a month. Like that's one thing I just kind of hope that we get to at one point. But as far as everything going on with the Storm right now, there are so many talented players that are not going to make the cut, and it's unfortunate. But again, that's just kind of what the W is. Um, Not any names in specific, but center and shooting guard. They're going to be two positions I feel like the Storm have to figure out the most because I'm looking at this list right now. Really, outside of Malonga, it's kind of slim pickings. It's really Lee Euro, and that's about it. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough as far as rotation wise in the front court. It should be. I mean, you would think that they're going to kind of run more of a small ball field than last year, but I don't think they're going to be as dependent on the whole front court trio of NECA, Dominique, and Ezzy. I think that they're gonna have to shoot the ball. We saw that last year. Despite the time they had last year and coming into this year, those same issues could be the same. So again, shooting guard and center, depth of both of those positions, we're gonna see how training camp goes, and that's what I'm looking at the most.
I think that's yeah. Well, and as we talked about, after that trade happened, you watched the film on Lee Uru. Yeah, Lee. I hate this because I want to talk more basketball. All right. We will see you guys. We'll get this out. I'll sit here and try to contain all my energy, and we'll get this uploaded tonight so you've got it before we get Rowan and I will be at training camp tomorrow. Um and I know Christian will be there. We'll have Zoom stuff. We'll sit there and he'll have to hear my voice on the thing. Unfortunately, I know I'm not the greatest to listen to all the time. And then we'll go from there and we'll talk about that. We'll talk more Storm hoops because this, you know, this Storm, this team will be nothing if not interesting this year. Just generally interesting. Just with how like I got to look back at this when we get the opening day roster because it'll be fascinating to see how Talisa and Noe work through this. So, all right, man. That'll do it for us today. You'll get us tomorrow. By the time you see this, it'll probably be today. Yeah. Till we see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, were you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, so I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.